Hello and welcome back to the Western European coverage of the WePlay Animajor going on right now in Kiev. Today was day 2 of the group stage, and like I was saying yesterday after day 1 about these teams having completely opposite days, that narrative has once again continued. And although Team Nigma didn't exactly have the best day or as good of a day as yesterday, they are still maintaining their position in the pack as they are tied for second place right now with 4 other of the top teams, trailing only behind PSG LGD, which was the only team today from that top half to go 3-1. And joining the top half of the pack was TNC Predators today, who went 4-0. After a rough day 1 where they go 1-3, they finished today going 4-0, so they are now tied with Team Nigma as well. And for Team Liquid, even though it's looking really bad right now, it is looking worse because they have yet to play TNC Predator. They are actually their first opponent tomorrow, and TNC Predator, like I said, they're just looking hot. Looking at Team Nigma's day, they started their day playing against Team Liquid, which was the first time these two teams have played in several weeks. And I said yesterday that it was super important that Liquid was able to show that they can beat these top teams. They played against PSG LGD and Team Nigma today, and I said that if they were not able to win at least 2 of these games today, that they were most likely going to be one of the teams that was at risk of going home. And seeing as that they have not even managed to win one of those games, it looks like that no matter what, at this point, Team Liquid is going to be going home. The chances are very slim given that one of the teams that's down in the rankings with them is Team Spirit, who has yet to play against Team Liquid or Beast Coast, which is the other team that has also been struggling. So assuming Team Spirit is able to take at least half of those games off of them, it puts Beast Coast and Team Liquid at more of a risk of not even being able to tie them. I'd also said yesterday that I was really kind of disappointed with the way that they were drafting their team, where they're putting Sumail on these untraditional mids. I say untraditional as opposed to him as a player, not as opposed to the meta, because we all know that Templar Assassin is a huge part of the meta in this tournament. I was saying that they probably had lost a bit of their identity when it came to what they were drafting. They were drafting more around meta and their opponent as opposed to themselves and what had made them so successful during the regular season. Need I remind you, these guys finished second place in a division with Team Nigma, Team Secret, OG, and Alliance, let alone the other top European teams in that upper division that were not as known at the start, but showed that they can take games and compete with some of these top teams. And that continued again in their first series against Team Nigma, where they drafted this Sumail Templar Assassin in the first phase, and it did not look good. Team Nigma got on one of their super comfortable drafts, and they were even picking Invoker into Templar Assassin, which a lot of people would consider a traditional counter, especially in the laning stage, and yet the result goes Nigma's way. Neither game looked very close. I can say that Team Liquid kind of had some opportunities where maybe they would be able to make a comeback, but again, it was just a lot more of Team Nigma looking unstoppable. A lot of that momentum from the past 2 days just carrying over. And again, onto the drafting, Team Nigma got 2 very comfortable drafts in both of these games against Team Liquid, whereas opposed to Team Liquid, they just had these weird meta-oriented drafts that really just doesn't fit their playstyle. I think the only player that really benefits from this meta right now is Koikfa, because a lot of the heroes that he's been playing, mainly Magnus and Slardar, are very popular. However, having Sumail on this Templar Assassin just continues to look bad. But now focusing more on Team Nigma because we are on their half. Overall looking good. Like I was saying the past few days, they've seemed to have found their stride in the drafting. They've seemed to have found what works for them. No matter what gets banned against them in the first phase, they're able to adapt and get a comfortable draft either way. So yeah, they take that first series against Team Liquid pretty convincingly, and then they play against TNC Predator, who a lot of people were really shocked by their performance today. Again, like I had mentioned, they were 1-3 after day 1, so they were looking pretty dire. But then they 2-0'd against Beast Coast, and then they come back and they 2-0 Team Nigma. Not only that, they 2-0'd them on a lot of their comfort heroes. Team Nigma had drafted Mars in each of those games and had lost in both of them, as well as Miracle picking his Invoker, and that one losing as well. But yeah, even despite splitting their 4 games that they played today, they still are tied with 3 other teams in that top half of the division. Those teams being TNC Predator, who newly joined the group, as well as Evil Geniuses and VG Gaming. And head of that group is PSG LGD, who is 1 win ahead, going 6-2. So yeah, even after splitting the series, they are not trailing behind, and they are still in the running for an upper bracket spot. And worst comes to worst, they finish lower bracket. I don't see how they get eliminated when there's already 3 teams that are stuck at the bottom. And those 3 teams, one of them being Liquid, who are several games behind the pack. Yes, looking at the heroes played today, they played 6 more heroes on top of the ones they've already played today, adding them up to a total of 41. Like I was saying yesterday, Mind Control's Mars, which was 8-0 yesterday, is now 8-2. Those 2 games against Liquid, it was first phase banned, and they still won those games. So that stat from yesterday where I was talking about in the games where Mars was first phase banned, they were 0-2, no longer a thing. And they get Mars in both of their games against TNC Predator, and they lose with it both games. So it is now 8-2. Looking at the next one, we got Miracle's Invoker, who was 5-0 before that series against TNC. He had played that in 3 of the 4 games. He played that twice against Liquid and won both of them. Moving on, we have Kuroki's Ancient Apparition, who is still on the list from yesterday as well, but however, he did not play at a single time time today. It was banned in the first phase in every single game. Next, we have Miracle's Puck and ILTW's Ursa, who are both 3-2 at this point. And finally, Kuroki's Lion, who also did not get a chance to come out today. Looking at their most banned by Team Nigma now, after yesterday, their most banned heroes were TA, Brood, and Nyx, and those all stay true. They banned Broodmother in all their games today. However, they've moved on from first phase banning it. They are now second phase banning it. So they feel more comfortable letting it come through, assuming it will be a first phase Broodmother. However, once they're past the first phase, they don't want to have to worry about that hero anymore, and they get rid of it every single time. And that seems to ring true for Templar Assassin as well, but not for Nyx Assassin. Nyx Assassin, they are still getting rid of in the first phase against some teams, mainly the ones from SEA and China. Finally, looking at their most banned against Team Nigma, after yesterday, that was IO, Puck, and then AAPL, Ursa, and Faceless Void were all banned, all tied together for the amount of times they were banned. And after today, IO is still number 1 with 14 bans against, as well as Ancient Apparition, which, like I said, was banned 4 times in the first phase against them. That has now had 8 bans, so half of those bans coming from today. And Puck and Faceless Void both with 6 each. Wrapping up with their win rates, they played 3 games on Radiant today, 1 on Dire. They are now 6-3 on first pick and 6-4 on last pick. So again, it doesn't really seem to matter which pick they have. They just are able to have a steady win rate with that. And that Radiant win rate is now up to 8-3. They won twice on their Radiant today, lost once against TNC. And then they are 4-4 on Dire, so they lost 1 game against TNC on Dire. Looking at the combination of the two, they are now 2-0 on first pick Radiant, and they are 6-3 on last pick Radiant. So again, Radiant looking really good for them. On first pick Dire, they are now 4-3 for a 57% win rate, and they are 0-1 on last pick Dire. So they've only played that once, but they lost it. And wrapping up with their game win rates, game 1, they are now 6-3 across the entire tournament, and this is excluding that tiebreaker against IG, like I had mentioned yesterday. And they are 5-4 in game 2. So yeah, wrapping up Team Nigma, things are looking good for them. I don't think they're going to get knocked out of this group stage. Again, they're in the top 5, whereas opposed to these 3 bottom teams, including Team Liquid, seem to be stuck at the bottom right now. I don't really see how it's not one of those 2 of those 3 teams that get knocked out. If I had to guess, I have to say it's going to be Beast Coast and Liquid that are going home. But again, there's still 2 more days of Dota to be played, and if Liquid can manage to win every single game, they can still go even, which is pretty surprising. And yeah, this is a very tight group stage. Team Nigma are still in the running for an upper bracket spot. They're only 1 game behind first place, and they are tied with 3 other teams for second place. So the upper bracket dream is still there. However, if you're a Team Nigma fan, you maybe want them to go through the lower bracket. We all know how that usually goes. Meanwhile, on Team Liquid size, the lower bracket is the dream right now. It certainly looks like it's going to be that if it's not elimination. They go 0-4 today. Granted, they did play against 2 of the hotter teams of the tournament, Team Nigma and PSG LGD, who have looked absolutely fantastic and are now top of the group stage. However, this does not look like a team that's ready to compete in the major, let alone in the group stage leading up to it. Of the 3 matches they have left, they play against 2 more of the top teams, while only playing against one of the lower teams left, which is Team Spirit, who have also had a pretty rough group stage, but are still managing to pull out wins here and there. If Team Liquid isn't able to pull at least 1 game off of the red-hot TNC Predator, that puts them in a really dangerous position when they go up against Team Spirit, because Team Spirit, if they win 2 games there, they are able to knock out Team Liquid of this tournament. So yes, that's Team Spirit series. Even though it's not the first one of the day tomorrow, that's going to be the most important one. And even if Team Liquid managed to win that 1-2-0, it might already be too late. They have to show that they can win games. They have to win at least 5 of their 6 games, and even that might not even be enough. They might need to win every single game they play tomorrow and the day after if they want to stay in this tournament. But yeah, looking at the games today, it really just felt like they were lost in the draft. Again, it seemed like they kind of lost their identity and they're just trying to pick everything. It seemed like every single game they played today was a different sort of orientation, different sort of draft. And every time they lost, rather than building on what they had, they scrap everything and start fresh. Sumail played 4 different heroes today, one of them being Pugna, which was a little odd. I was saying yesterday that I'd love to see him on these tempo setting heroes that are able to take map control and flash farm. Well, Pugna's a tempo setter, but he's not a flash farmer. This is your superstar mid player, and you're putting him on these heroes like Pugna who aren't able to carry a game on their own. So yeah, I don't think Liquid are going to be moving on to the playoffs unless they manage to pull off a miracle here, but I think they have a lot to learn from this, especially leading in a TI. They already have a lot of DPC points, so they're likely to make it just off of that. And this should be a pretty valuable lesson about what sort of draft style they want to go to, and maybe a wake-up call that they're maybe moving too far away from who they are and looking too much at who other people are. Looking at the heroes they've played, this was their 2nd day of Dota, so it's considerably less than Team Nigma. They've now played 31 different heroes, their most played being Templar Assassin and Snapfire, both going 1 and 2 now. Insania's Oracle, which is 1 and 1, which he did not pick at all today. It was banned a few times, but in the games that it wasn't, he still was not picking it. Mickey's Bristleback, which is 1 and 1 now, as well as Sumail's Leshrac and Taiga's Tiny, both going 0-2 at this point. By the end of yesterday, it was Nyx Assassin and Wraith King who they had banned in every single game that they played, as well as Timbersaw. And continuing atop that list is Nyx Assassin and Wraith King. Nyx Assassin being banned 6 times, Wraith King 5, and now Mars. Notably, they had only banned Mars once after yesterday, but playing against Team Nigma where they banned it first phase twice, that adds 2 there, and they also banned it once against TSG LGD. After yesterday, their most banned against them was their Morphling, their Enchantress, and their Slardar. But after playing against Team Nigma, who is a team that knew them very well, they figured that it'd be best to get rid of that Oracle in the first phase. So that Oracle is now topping the charts at 5 bans. Enchantress with 4, and Slardar and Brood both with 4. Those are both Koikfa target bans. Even though we have not really been seeing a lot of Slardar in this tournament, we know that Koikfa is able to play very well in that, and that they like to play these PA and TA drafts, so it would fit that very nicely. Finishing off with some win rates, it feels kind of pointless going over this considering they are 1-8. There's a lot that they have a 0% win rate on. For example, first pick, they've played that 3 times and they are 0-3. On last pick, they are 1-4. On Radiant, they're 1-3, and on Dire, they're 0-4. I was saying yesterday that they had played Radiant 4 times in that first day, whereas in the regular season, they were really succeeding on Dire and really struggling on Radiant. Well, they played 4 games of Dire today and they lost all of them. So maybe that is for nothing. On first pick Radiant, they go 0-1. Last pick Radiant, they go 1-2. And on first pick Dire and last pick Dire, they go in 0-2 for each. Looking at their game 1 stats, which need to remind you again, in the regular season, they had not lost a single game 1. In this tournament, they have lost every single game 1. And in game 2s, they are 1-3. But yeah, like I was saying, I think a lot of this tournament for Team Liquid has really been draft oriented. I don't think they've necessarily played bad in any of these games. They've got some big name players on this team. They've just tried coming into this tournament with a meta oriented draft, and when it doesn't work, they scrap it and try something completely new rather than building on it. I really think that this tournament is going to serve as a valuable lesson for them, and I really hope to see them at TI. So yeah, this looks like it might be the end of the road for Team Liquid's tournament. Again, they do play 2 series tomorrow and 1 the day after. And unless they're able to win 5 or 6 of those games out of 6, I don't see them making it to the playoffs. However, if they do make it to the playoffs coming off of 6 and 5 game win streak, that could set them up for a lower bracket run. Coming into a tournament with that much momentum can still get you far into a tournament, so they just better hope that they're able to light some sort of fire in them overnight. But yeah, that's going to do it for day 2 of the group stage at the WePlay Kiev Major. Again, I'm going to be having a day 3 review tomorrow, where hopefully by that point Team Liquid is not yet mathematically eliminated, I hope, and that Team Nigma is hopefully looking at an upper bracket position. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to leave a suggestion and a prediction on how you think day 3 is going to go. And yeah. Subscribe if you want more. I'm going to be covering the rest of the tournament from here on out all the way until next Sunday. So if you don't want to miss any of that, please subscribe, and I will talk to you all later.